Hello, folks. This is Anthony. You want to save money by doing some of your own maintenance? I've got a series started last Friday on how to do a Honda Snowblower and service. This is going to be part two. So if you want to look at part one, I'll post a link at the end of the video so you can watch part one. So I've got the machine up in the service position. I've showed this many times. I've got the oil, the gasoline drained out. I ran the engine and shut off the gas and let it stall out first, and then drained the oil. And I put a, when you get older, you forget things. So I put a piece of tape. I took the key off and put a tape on there so I don't forget to put the new oil in. When I get done with this on the nose. So before I put the machine up on the nose, I check the deflection of the tracks. Now we get a specific video on the replacing the track or adjusting the tracks because it's different for different models. This is an HS828, and the older models have a specific way to doing it. I've got another video in the playlist on how to do it, so I'll post a link on that one too. So from this position, you can get a lot done. So I start at the top here. I want to check my clutches, make sure they work freely. These are controls for your forward and reverse and your chute. Let me see. I want to use some. Once if they're kind of tight, you want to put some penetrating oil in here and work it until they work right, and then you can put some lubricant. You can spray some lubricant in your clutches. You can put a little bit of grease or some lubricant up here where the throttle cable ends. You want to spray your clutches. You want to spray up in here, and you see the end of the cable. You want to make sure that moves freely. If it's frozen, eventually the cable could be rubbing on metal, and then the splines will start breaking, and then eventually the cable will fail. So you want to make sure that the cable ends are moving freely. You can see that I already lubricated it. You're locked down. You can take your cover off, which is a nut here and a little bolt there, and the cover comes right off. I lubricated the ratchet so that your lockdown works. Uh, Pull down your drive cable, your drive handle, and now it's locked. See, so while you're moving the machine and you want to turn the chute or whatever, you can do that, and it will still drive. The augers will still work. It's a safety feature. So as soon as you let go of your drive handle, it unlocks. So you want to make sure that works. There's a spring right here. Usually it gets dirty with grease and dirt. I mean, dried up grease or whatever. And then a little bit of lubrication, working it, and you're good to go. Down here, you got your cables for your auger and your drive. If they need an adjustment, you can adjust them right here. If you got a little bit too much play with your handle, this one's not too bad, but if you get too much play, I can adjust this up. See, I can loosen up your lock nut, adjusting that up or down. I usually use a little bit of trial and error until I get it right. Then you can put it back in. I do the inside first and then the outside, and then I tighten everything up, and then I check my adjustment, get the slop out of it. See, I'm going to have to adjust that a little bit more. It's got too much, too much. So, you know, all right, your boots can come off. All you have to do is pull them off. Don't worry about the clip. They just pull off. So you push them back on. They pull right off. Let's see. I got some cable lube. I like Liquid Wrench products. They're cheap and they work really well. This is Liquid Wrench chain and cable lube. You want to take your boots off and spray, give it a couple squirts, let it work down the cable. Shops have an oiler. They have a tool that you can put on here and spray the oil in, and all the oil gets into the cable. But most of you people don't have that, so that's what I do. I just push the cable a little bit out of the way and spray some cable lube. So you got this one, this one. You've got your throttle cable. Spray some cable lube in there too. Takes a little bit of patience. You got your other clutch cable. You spray a little bit of cable lube in there. It usually takes me about 5 or 10 minutes to do this because I wanna get a bunch of cable lube down there, and then you work your clutches and you work your cable up and down, and it distributes the oil. So that's what you can do up here, and then working your way down. I took the recoil starter off. What did I do with that sucker? It's easy to take off. You got three little bolts right here. You take those out. Here it is in my box. Take it off. You've got your you can lubricate your dogs. It's called the dogs. If you pull this out, you see how they pop out. That's how they connect to this part here and turn your engine over. So you pull it out a little bit. You can spray some lube down here, and then you've got your spring in here. So you can spray a bunch of lube. I'd spray a lot. Spray a bunch of lube and lubricate your springs. Well, there's one spring. And then when you pull it out, this is what it should do. It should snap right back. You can pull your cord out all the way and oil your cord. What I do is I take a rag, put some oil on the rag, and wrap the rag around the cord and spread oil on the cord. Okay, so that's pretty fast. That solves a lot of problems if it's not snapping back. Stick that back on. Working your way down. I already talked about the tracks. This is where you adjust your tracks. There's a lock nut underneath that you have to loosen up before you can adjust these. But that's in the other video, folks. You can check your pedal action. You can lubricate some grease, some light grease in here in the slots. What I do first is I check the bolt on the side. Can you see that bolt? You want to make sure that it's there, and you want to make sure it's tight. That's your mounting bolt for your pedal to your engine bed. Okay. So and then you can check that. The second thing I check is the springs. I see the spring right here. You want to make sure it's in good condition. Sometimes they're missing. I get machines in, the spring is missing, and the owner is complaining about the pedal not locking in, or it's off kilter. So the spring may be missing. It might have broken down here at where it mounts, or it's what do you call it, worn out, and it doesn't have much spring left. So you can replace the spring. So I check both sides. Your other spring. Work your pedal. Lubricate the slots a little bit. I took this bottom plate off, which is just four bolts. I took it off so we can look in here. I want to look at this is your hydrostatic transmission. You want to make sure the pin's there with a little cotter pin or hook pin that's there. You can check your cable for your forward and reverse. See, there's a pin that holds it in with a little cotter pin or hook pin. You want to check your auger brake. You see how it snaps back? That's good. A lot of people will take the bucket off to replace the big auger belt and the impeller bearing that's on the other side of this. And when they put it back together, they won't clamp the auger cable down that keeps the auger brake out of the way. And what happens is they put the bucket back on, and this part's on the inside of this. And then they cause all kinds of problems, and you got to take the bucket off again. So you want to make sure that's nice and straight. Sometimes it's bent. It might be scraping on your pulley wheel here. This is your right side transmission final drive gearbox. I'm going to have a separate video on installing a Zerk right there. You want to keep this thing, you want to put new grease in it every year. You want to check your seals. It's hard to see with the sun, but see where the shafts are here? There's seals on the end, rubber seals, and you want to make sure that the seals are flush with the transmission case. And now if they're not, you can push them back in with a paint stirrer stick or something. You don't want to use a pry bar because you might damage the seal. So when I've got the machine up in this position, I'm checking all the stuff from the top down to the bottom, and it's only taken us about 5 or 10 minutes or so. If you got problems, then it's going to take longer. Now, the last thing I do on part 2 of a service in this position, let's see if I got everything right so far. Okay, I want to check my carburetor. Most of the time, the carburetor is fine. But I'll take this elbow off, which is 2 bolts. I'll take the elbow off. I can check the choke, make sure it's closing. See how it closes in the choke position? And that's when the fast position, it opens up. Now, we've got another video on the playlist on how to adjust this as well as the RPMs. So I'm not going to do that, take up too much of your time on this. But it's fairly easy to adjust if necessary. Here's your choke arm, and this is where you adjust it. You pry it out if you need the choke to close all the way, or you pinch it in the other direction. It depends. So I want to check the carburetor really quick. I'll take the sediment cup off, make sure it's nice and clean. If it's not clean, if it's got dirt or grit in here, I'll clean it out with what do you call it? A little tool. Clean that out. Make sure it's got the O-ring. There's a black O-ring right there. You want to make sure that's there, or else it will leak. Okay? And then you take your bowl off. You want to inspect the inside of your bowl. See how dirty it is. It's nice and clean. If there's dirt in here, if there's just a little bit of grit or dirt, I wouldn't panic. Spray it some carburetor cleaner. I'll check this. I check, see, look for rust, look for white powder, rust, or whatever. You can do an in-frame cleaning, which we have a separate video on. Almost anybody can do this if you take your time and have patience. You want to make sure that the float is not stuck. But that's a whole nother topic. We got a separate video on that to do an in-frame cleaning. That's if you're having trouble starting it, the way it runs, or you see obvious reasons why it needs an in-frame cleaning with your service. So you can check out that video in the playlist. I'll put a link. So this is basically what you can do on the second part of this service. Depending on what your needs are, it can take 15 or 20 minutes. It can take longer if it needs more, if you have to adjust the tracks, or you have to do anything extra work. So please stay tuned for the next part on Friday. I'm going to have a specific video on a step-by-step on how to install a grease zerk and pump in some new grease on your final drive gearbox and why you need it. And it's such a good idea to always do this if you have one of the older models. Now, I don't want people to get confused. You people with the newer models, HSS models, you don't even have this gearbox, so you don't have to worry about it. So I hope you like this. I hope it saves you money, especially if you have a problem in the wintertime and you can't get it to a shop. So please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next Friday. Thank you.